Hey friends, I'm traveling right now and I went and visited a church, and the teacher, he had such a good message, but once again, another teacher who has the wrong interpretation of who Leah in the Bible was.
Leah is the oldest sister, and long story short, Jacob really liked Rachel. It actually says almost lusted after Rachel. He really wanted Rachel. He got tricked into marrying Rachel's older sister, Leah. The scriptures even say Leah had weak eyes. That's a nice way of saying she was ugly.
I always cringe when I hear these pastors, these comedians, these teachers, try to interpret the story of Leah now that God has given me the deep revelation of who Leah really was. They always start out saying that she was weak-eyed, pretty much ugly, couldn't see, unloved, rejected, and, Rachel was the one that Jacob wanted, and he got tricked with Leah, oh, horrible Leah, right? But that is such a misconception. Growing up in church, I never wanted to hear people talk about the story of Leah because it was always so negative. But I remember as a young adult, I was in a Bible study. They once again were talking about the story of Leah and all the misconceptions that people have when they read her story. And I remember going home that night and saying, God, is there any good into Leah? Is that really the identity of who Leah is? I carry that name. And even though I'm, of course, a different Leah, it's still, as a believer, your name matters. But God gave me such a mind-blowing revelation that day. He started to show me who Leah really was. You read that she was weak-eyed, but back in the Bible days, most women had what they call strong eyes, meaning like black or dark brown eyes. The reason why the Bible mentions that she had weak eyes is because her eyes were rare. They were light, maybe blue or gray. So she could have had 20/20 vision. It doesn't mean she was blind. But when we read the Bible, we automatically take it as she was blind or could not see, right? She had weak vision, which is just not true. She just had light eyes. That's probably the number one misconception. The second is that Jacob didn't love her. Yes, he chose Rachel, that's true, which was probably lust because of his preference, how she looked. And yes, her dad tricked him by giving him Leah when he worked 7 long years for Rachel. But God actually had great favor on Leah. Back in those days, a sign that God was pleased with you is that he would open your womb and you would have many children. God opened Leah's womb. She had many children, and Rachel could not. In fact, she was so upset and so jealous that Leah was having children. She got angry at God, said, "Why am I barren?" Took her handmaid and gave it to her husband to have a child. That's how desperate she was. And Jacob really did have a deep love for Leah. He actually requested to be buried next to Leah instead of Rachel when he died. But the most important, mind-blowing, beautiful truth is that Leah is the only woman in the Bible who is the direct lineage to Jesus Christ. From Leah came her children, and down the line came our Savior, Jesus Christ. So I tell you all this to tell you, don't allow the enemy to lie to you, tell you who you are. Don't allow people to tell you who you are. Get into your word and ask God to show you who you are. The enemy wants to mess with you and tell you who you are, but God created each and every one of you, sons and daughters of God, who have a purpose, who have a God-given identity. And if you want to hear more about this, you can check out my podcast from a couple years ago called Identity Crisis, where I dive in deeper into this topic. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, on my Facebook group, for more encouraging content. Love you, friends.